Hello, 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 and hello once more. Yes, 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 yes. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Gaz Williams Show. And no, that way, we've got the most splendid guest tonight, Mr. Eric Schlappi, who actually does, I have to say, the greatest name in the whole business. Amazing. And actually the best logo in the business while we're at it as well. But there's a lot more to this lovely man than just a good name and a great logo. Hello everybody in the chat room. So we can Wagyu, Ryan, hello, Tom, hey, nice, Cloudface, DPW Dan, lovely to see you all. Hey, great. We got a great show lined up for you tonight, so thank you for joining. This is going to be amazing. So what we're going to do, we're going to talk to Eric about all sorts of things about your background and your musical kind of influences, and importantly, your synthesizers. And just to make everything cool and interactive, we have a Schlappy based rig here, which let me see, can I make this go? Let's just do that. We'll go big. Yeah. We've got the 3-body and the brand new Bitfold and an angle grinder just for fun as well. And this rig here is being driven from my Oxy One, which viewers who saw me last week will have seen me using that one. And then, oops, let's just go back there. I'm going to switch this around. There we go. So we'll be exploring these modules with Eric and talking about some of the design decisions, because quite a few of those are definitely chin stroking sort of. So I'm most interested to kind of learn about why, how, and just this. Some of the nuttier sides of this. So yes, so just checking everything good in the chat room. You can see and hear us. Eric, would you just like to say hello so we can get your
hello.
Yeah, okay. Right. So chat room, if chatties can just confirm all is good, then we'll plow on with everything and
synthesizers.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit there, Eric. I just wonder. Yeah.
More gain, less gain.
More gain.
More gain. How is that?
Yeah, it's better.
More gain.
Let's give you a bit more gain here as well. Okay. Yeah, Eric's a bit quiet, but chatties are confirming that. We're going to make you a bit louder. Thank you for that.
Can maybe pull it up here a bit more too.
Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah. I think we're good.
Cool.
So look, Wagyu has just said he did that 3-body problem module as hardware jams for the user challenges. Yeah, interesting. So the hardware jams is really picking up, isn't it? Okay, so let's get. We've got a bit of background noise going on here. Let me see if I can just get rid of some of that. I'm just going to put a bit of this on, see if that helps get rid of some background noise. Okay.
We've got the highway right next to us, so maybe the good mic has brought
yeah. Okay.
Problems.
Okay, but yes, and Wagyu is saying much better volume wise. Okay, thank you very much for that. Hello, Mr. Fat Dust. It's gonna make
the highway through the window. Oh, maybe that helps. I don't know. Anyway.
Okay. So, all right then. So let's just go back to the beginning for a moment then, Eric. What year did you release your first product under the name of Schlappy Engineering?
I think it was 2017 when I released the Interstellar Radio.
And then sort of had you ever considered before that you would actually be manufacturing sort of things? Was that a kind of a surprise to you as to everybody else?
No, no. This is kind of the only thing I've ever wanted to do. It wasn't necessarily always like obviously I didn't always know about Eurorack, but I think since I was pretty young, I knew I wanted to um, design and build some sort of like synthesizers or pedals or whatever. And when I think I got into Eurorack in 2014 with the I Dream of Wires documentary,
Yeah.
and also getting an engineering job where I could actually sort of kind of afford it. And then discovering it was, doing a lot of DIY stuff and discovering I could feasibly design a module by myself.
Mm. Nice. Okay, so I mean, so then you just touched on then. So well, let's roll back, way back. Okay. So
Okay.
teenage Eric, what are you listening to? What's the music that starts you off on your journey? What's your formative influences then?
So I think I was maybe somewhat importantly like introduced to Slayer and Nine Inch Nails at about the same time. And I think I've bounced back and forth between those sort of things. But I was also really quickly into the more experimental side of things. So I think as a teenager, I would have talked a lot about Skinny Puppy and Einstürzende Neubauten, a bit of free jazz, a bit of King Crimson, but like I was definitely into the more experimental electronic stuff and death metal. But
So I mean, you're based out of Portland now. Are you a Portland native, or is this where did you grow up?
I'm originally from Phoenix, Arizona, which is a really good place for metal, and I think it's finally getting recognized for that, which is cool. But it's also, I don't know, Portland's an easier place to live for sure. I lived, I think I left Phoenix when I was just about 20 in 2004 and moved to New York for 10 years, and got really deep into the noise scene there. And then got an engineering degree and moved to Tucson, Arizona, and then eventually made my way to Portland.
Okay, interesting. So I mean, now I think that New York stint then is definitely a big clue as to what the modules that you end up designing. So excuse me. Can you tell me a little bit about that time in New York then, and what sort of what what the club scene was like, or what was happening in that? What were you being drawn to?
So I moved there after getting like a technical degree in audio recording. So I worked at this recording studio called Headgear for a couple of years, and they were cool. I don't think they're still around exactly, though. I think the people involved are still around, but I got to like assist on some like TV on the radio and a bunch of indie rock from that time and some noisier stuff too. But yeah, so then I realized that I think to be a successful audio engineer, like recording engineer, you need to have more people skills that I'm willing to deal with. It's
Yeah.
like I'm better. I would rather be on more, like I've realized since then that actually everything requires people skills. There's no way to get away from it. But so I wandered into live sound and I did that for a few years, and then I got an engineering degree and finally started making the gear I wanted to make. But yeah, and for about 10 years, I was going to like 3 to 5 noise shows a week. There was a venue called Death by Audio, which was run by the Death by Audio pedal people.
Yeah.
And I helped out for like a summer or two building their pedals, and then they kind of let me come to the shows for free, and I abused that privilege heavily, I think.
Cool. I've got the Fuzz War pedal here from Death by Audio, which is a classic pedal. Okay, this is really interesting. Okay, so this background, I mean, I wanted to go a little bit about the background. So as we start to move then to talking about the modules, just to get a little bit of kind of context to it. So then you said then that 2014, then you start dabbling with Eurorack, and was that kind of like a love at first sight kind of thing? Did you think you felt that you'd found a like something that you could really kind of dig and get into?
So along the way, also in New York, I worked at a musical instrument store back then called Two Lines, which is now Three Wave in New Jersey. But so they were doing vintage synth stuff and like mostly monosynths and stuff, but they did have Dopefer things all the way back then, 2005 Dopefer, and every now and then a System 100M would come through. I don't think we ever got any of the like rarer modular systems, but a number of those Roland vintage modulars came through. So I was familiar before Eurorack and always knew I was going to get into it. I also had a friend that built up a DIY 4U like of his own modules, but kind of I'd say influenced by Surge and Buchla. So I played with all of that stuff, but there was and I know like when I decided to go modular, there was still this lingering, like I thought about going frac rack and getting the what was the brand for frac rack? Do you
I've never. I mean, they got them on Modular Grid. I can have a look.
But it was those 4-year modules. There was like one guy. Anyway, what I'm just saying is that it wasn't a foregone conclusion that I was going to go Eurorack. Also, another experience with modular I'd had by that time is I'd been in this band called The Wretch that had a fairly large .com 5U system. But it's a lot different, like playing with other people's relatively classic modular systems and then like diving in the deep end on, especially at that time where Eurorack was going in every direction all at once.
Right. Because I mean, it was, I guess that where digital ceased to be a dirty word in modular. It was always the only game in town for analog, wasn't it? We know in its early days, but then sort of that time, I think 2012, 2013, 2014 is where the floodgates open, and then that digital. The possibilities of digital starts to be embraced. And partly why I mentioned that, though, I think is because some of your designs utilize digital in ways that would have probably been frowned upon in the earlier modular scene, which is definitely a good thing. But so then you say then your first module then 2017, what was your inspiration there, and what drove you in that direction?
So the Interstellar Radio actually is influenced by some circuits I designed working freelance for a like medical company doing engineering. So they're not. It's because in that we needed to be able to transmit some information without sharing a ground plane because there was high voltage emissions. And so we would take an analog voltage, transmit it into a high frequency pulse train, like a digital, quote unquote, digital signal, but analog square waves, which you can then push across a optical line, and then regenerate it on the other side. And one sort of old school lo-fi way to do it that I found in some data sheet has to do with what's called voltage to frequency and frequency to voltage converters. So you take some analog range, transpose it onto a high frequency square wave, and then on the other side you recover the analog voltage using PLLs and filters. And the interstellar radio came from abusing that, like taking it so that the clock rates are different, so you're not recovering the voltage necessarily, but it makes pretty neat sounds.
Yeah, cool. Oh, okay, that's fascinating. So then you were heartened then by putting something out. You think, okay, I can actually do this, and people are interested in these things. This must have been quite an exciting time then to feeling like your ideas are being reciprocated and enjoyed, and people actually buying it as well.
Sort of. I released that when I quit an engineering job and moved to Portland. And I took like 6 months, and I'd been working on it for a couple years before then, but then I released that. And then I completely ran out of money and got another engineering job. And while I was working that one, I released the Angle Grinder and then the 100 Grit. And the 100 Grit was the one that was like, oh, okay, I think we can actually do this as a day job.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, so let's sort of move a little bit more forward in time now, and then so the more recent modules that you've been putting out. Well, we're going to talk about the 3-body, which I think is the big module, isn't it? In the range, or it's a big 3 oscillator beast here. We will be looking at that. But there's also your latest module. Then this is the Bitfold. This I'm kind of curious about now, because this is the latest one in this range of 4-bit modules. So like the Nibbler and the Bitmix, and this, I mean, 4-bit. What on earth? How on earth did you sort of stumble on 4-bit as a kind of musical? Why?
So the 3-body is super hi-fi. Like the frequency register for that, I think, is 28 bits, and internally the audio is routed as 24 bits until it comes out. But one thing I started experimenting with it was something I've been thinking about since decades ago. Is I used to do circuit bending stuff. And are you familiar with the HR16 drum machine?
Of course.
Have you ever heard a circuit bent HR16?
I think because it's a weird one, isn't it? The little little piezo microphones under all of those. It's all absolutely gagging for circuit bending. Okay, interesting.
So that one, I think the way the bends on that work is you're basically just crossing the RAM around. So you're just crossing the data lines, and you get really gnarly sounds out of it. So on the 3-body, I was experimenting with crossing the bits, kind of influenced by this, and I made some expanders and so on. But it didn't. It fought with like the main concept, the main mission of that module, which is like this like hi-fi, really nice phase and frequency modulation, like crudely crossing the bits, just sort of like it's fun, but it wipes that out. But what I did discover while tinkering with all that stuff is that really just you need the top 4 bits. If you're doing like crude bit manipulation stuff, because each bit down will have half of the effect as the next one, pretty much. And there's more to that, but like that's sort of the gist where I was like, okay, instead of like expanding the three body, let's make some separate things that play with this direct bit manipulation, because binary does have a lot of these sort of musical results, and directly manipulating these bits has like it's sort of a shortcut to doing wave shaping and frequency and phase modulation all at once in interesting ways. And so that kind of led to the Nibbler, which originally I was going to do on a smaller FPGA, some sort of logic chip, but this was during the chip crisis, and I couldn't buy those, and it was like, can I actually just do this with CMOS? And it's like, yes, I actually can. And so far, it's kind of gone that way with all of. There's more of these CMOS logic experiments that I'd like to, like. I don't know how many people I can drag along with me, because it's pretty esoteric. But
let's try and understand then, for people who might not know what CMOS is, or what it. I mean, in my understanding, it's these are like the standard. Well, actually, Eric, rather than me trip over my tongue, could you just give us a little basic understanding of that, please?
So I'm saying CMOS because this is something we're used to, like. As like synth DIY people, a lot of us were influenced by the Don Lancaster book, CMOS cookbook, and there's been a lot of other, I think Nicholas Collins, I'm forgetting the name of the book, like Handmade Technology or something, but there's a lot of literature, there's a lot of history of people taking these, what we're calling CMOS chips, but actually more modern ones, like might not be made on CMOS technology anymore. The classic series is the CD4000 series, which is from the 80s, and they're still used because they're in a bunch of these industrial applications where, like, once something makes it into an industrial application, or maybe even military one, like they don't want to change that, right? They want to keep making that for 50 years. So even though it's totally obsolete in a lot of ways. And a lot of these things are really useful for kind of gluing systems together. Like these crude shift registers are really useful when you use them with a modern microprocessor to add a bunch of inputs. So even though they're like, I guess I'm skipping around a lot, but what I say when I'm saying CMOS chips is really they're logic chips, often from the 80s, often with even older precursors, but serving these like basic computing functions that theoretically you could, and in the 70s and 80s, people did build whole computers with these chips. You probably, like I do want to do that, but that's like to make something even really crude just takes, it's not, it's more of a challenge. It's not really recommended to make a complex system just with these chips. At some point, you should probably shift over to using a microprocessor or an FPGA or something.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But in some nice ways, like the FPGA is logic. It's a lot of it. And there's so much of it that you have to, instead of controlling it by like dragging and dropping or connecting individual logic gates, you want to use some sort of language, in this case, Verilog.
Well,
but these logic chips do map precisely to the same sort of thinking and the same architectures. And they're nice because they kind of often end up in this middle ground between analog and digital, because depending on the chip, it may not, like need a sample rate or anything, so you can run them up to video rate or whatever you're trying. Like you're not like if you try to replicate this stuff inside a microprocessor, depending on the usage, you might be able to duplicate it. But I think within modular synth world, since you might want to use these in feedback paths and so on, it's really nice to have something where there isn't the latency or the like good enough for the application microprocessor. It's just like it just is the thing.
It just is. I got you. So yeah, okay. This is all starting to make sense to me now. But you mentioned then FGPA and the three body that's based on FGPA. Field programmable gate arrays, which is something that confuses the hell out of all of us. But behind me is the UDO Super 6, which also uses FGPAs as for the oscillators. So whilst we're talking, let's talk about the three body for a moment, because we've got a patch set up here. So I think we should maybe move over and have a little bit of a audio demonstration. And then once we've used a little bit with the three body, then we'll introduce the bit fold, which then is what we were just talking about. And to see if we can kind of link all of this up and understand of some of the musical or noise aspects that we can get from them. Sound good? Okay, so let's have a look what's going on here. So I might just go, I'm just going to make this, I'm just going to swap us over. I'm just going to go here for a moment, and then I'll, so the three body then, we've got three oscillators, which are, you can see the silver knobs on the left here would be the left oscillator, the right oscillator, and then with the black knobs, the central oscillator. And all three oscillators have more or less the same functionality, but the central oscillator has a few extra outputs and a few other tricks up its sleeve. And there's internal normalization going on, so we can use the outer oscillators to modulate the central oscillator. I mean, Eric, you're going to be better at describing this than me. But so this little patch then that we've got here, let's just get some sound going. It's just a real basic, very, very simple thing. Let's go back to our twos up shot. Are you hearing that? So actually what we got going on here is a stereo sound, because we've got two outputs from this central oscillator, the sine output and the cosine output, going into a little envelope module here, and then panned hard left and right. Okay. So now if I increase the well, I've decreased that now. If I increase this phase, as I'm changing this now, the outer oscillator is affecting, is it the phase?
It's affecting the phase. And it's in an LFO range, so it should be mostly inaudible, just providing movement. But since we also have some modulation from the right oscillator to the left oscillator, some of that audio will be leaking through it, basically. And if you change that ratio, you'll get different timbres, like classic, what we call frequency modulation, but it's actually phase modulation timbres from changing that ratio and the amount of phase modulation.
And like, it's very kind of clean and beautiful sounding, but don't let that deceive you or lure you into a false sense of security. Things can get crazy pretty quick. Okay. Okay. I mean, this thing is so deep that we're not going to be able to cover even the sort of the beginning of this, really. But we're just using this really just at the moment because this is going to. So this central one here is the bit fold, and that's new. So that's what we want to kind of get onto, really. So just have a little play. Oh, the video's in mono. Hang on. That shouldn't be, but I'll just check why that is. Thank you, Dan. Thank you. Let's go in stereo now.
There we go.
Okay. It was the echo cancellation bypassed the stereo, so... Aha. Thanks, Dan. So straight away, the timbres, that you find with it are kind of there's some familiar kind of FM-y sort of stuff, but there's also some quite unusual there's a bunch of things that's worth knowing about the three body if you don't know about it. All three oscillators, they're ostensibly separate, aren't they? In that, you've got a volt per octave input for each of them. So you could be driving this as three separate oscillators, but then there is internal normalization as well. You're probably not going to be able to see that well on here, but the LED lights, they're very informative, aren't they? They go to quite, so in an LFO range, they're going between a blue and a red, but then when it goes up into audio rate, it sort of goes more purple.
They're there's a blue and a red. When it's positive, it's blue, and when it's negative, it's red. And of course, when it goes into audio rate, it goes purple.
Okay, so let's turn our attention then to the bit fold, because we've got that. So there's switches which can determine the range that the frequency's covering, from a kind of essentially low LFO range to audio rate range. So this left one then, as we said, is set to being in an LFO range. Just out of interest, if I flick that up, oh yeah, back to LFO range. The right oscillator is set into an audio range, and we're taking out the triangle wave and we're going into the input of the bit fold, okay? And then we've got an output coming in, and it's actually going into a low pass gate. And that low pass gate from Axis Modular is then feeding into the mixer. So if I just take out our two oscillators playing now and bring up our third one now.
So you want to bring down the CV on the bit fold for now, because it has a feedback normalized there.
I'm just going to go straight in for the moment without the low pass gate, just to just to get we got the low pass gate just if things get a bit gnarly.
You also want to bring down the modulation to that third oscillator for now.
Okay.
Now turn the top knob on the bit fold.
Which range shall I be at? The +5 or the?
The plus or minus 5.
The bottom switch down. Oh. Sorry, switch up or switch down?
Switch up.
Switch up. Okay.
Yeah, and you might want to set it at a lower ratio.
This is where things kind of get cool.
Then maybe try setting the triangle from the left oscillator into the CV of the bit fold.
Okay. Triangle from here into the CV.
And turn down all the modulation for now. On the through body.
On the through body, yeah.
And turn up the CV on the bit fold a bit. And bring down the top knob, the gain or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Oh, juicy. So should we listen to the different outputs then of the bit?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's the.
So the other square outs will be kind of the same, but with less folds.
So they get sort of smooth. So that's one thing that's very apparent to me with, well, all of the modules, or certainly all the ones I have here, that lots of outputs. I've been recently putting together like a vintage, shall we say, mutable instruments rig, and a lot of them, they don't have many outputs. Lots and lots and lots and lots of inputs, but we need more outputs.
So there's two things happening there. One thing is that within digital world, usually, like the way I've designed things with the FPGA or the CMOS is like analog world where extra outputs come along for free.
Aha!
Usually in digital world, they don't come for free. You have to process all that stuff, and you need more DACs.
Yeah.
So usually in digital world, you end up with just one output and a bunch of switches or controls over the processing.
Oh, hang on. We've got an audio problem. Let me just sort out the audio problem. So Wagu's saying we are getting a doubled audio.
Yeah,
you're getting yourself.
I'm getting myself back in the headphone.
No. Okay, let me see what we can do. So the echo cancellation works, but it means that stereo doesn't work. Okay, so maybe
cancellation. No, that doesn't do it.
I'm gonna go. I'll chuck it back into. I'll have to go into mono for a moment. Oh, how annoying! But thank you for the. I assume. Yes, it's just a feedback loop. Now I'm assuming now.
It might be coming through my. Oh, I'm not hearing it in my headphones again. So
yeah, but we lose stereo.
And the audio quality I think goes down too.
Spoons. Okay, this is kind of weird because let me just look in my devices, as Frank Zappa would talk about, and I'll just see because there is a switch that is a echo cancellation switch. Sorry, excuse me. how boring. Sorry about this. Rah. So I think maybe we talk a little bit, and then maybe go back into if we talk in mono. Eric needs the mix. So Ian is saying Eric needs the mix minus for him, which is the whole mix except him. Gaz needs his own mix minus loop, which is the whole mix minus Gaz. Yeah, but I've got that switched on, but it doesn't seem to work. Oh dear. Oh, sorry about this, folks. It's a bit of a drag. Yes, but thank you for the shall we just do it in mono for the moment, and then everything was going far too well, wasn't it? Oh yeah, the sound quality is not as good. Let's go back down here. Immediately, what I'm finding, I should actually mention something. I'm just going to mention something. These modules, well, the 3-body and the bitfold, they just arrived here about 2.5 hours ago. So that's so it's super new to me, but straight away what I'm finding with it though is that the tones feel very different from, say, subtractive synth kind of stuff. I'm completely surrounded by so much subtractive synthesis here that having different voices, different tones, different timbres is really refreshing. So I'm really enjoying it. One little thing I did want to mention though is the quality of the pots and how sturdy they feel. That must be something that you take a lot of pride in from the build quality point of view. They really do feel absolutely solid. I'm assuming that's very important to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're turning knobs. The knobs should feel good. I think I got in I think in some ways my design methodology is doesn't track exactly with where the Eurorack market has gone, but for me, those tall trimmers, the real skinny ones, like it's just unacceptable. I don't like how it feels. I do understand why they're using them on CV attenuators now, with the idea that they're not really performance control, so it doesn't matter that much. But my idea is that everything should be a performance control, and no compromises.
Yeah.
But,
nice. But you mentioned then about attenuators, though. With the 3-body, when you patch in the controls, don't they? They automatically become attenuators, then, don't they?
So on some of them they become attenuators, and on some of them they're I have it set up so the answer is yes.
Okay, no, but again, no, but that's playing into that idea that it's designed to be performed, and I think I saw you talking about the 3-body in that part of the design idea behind that was that you wanted to sort of make a digital synthesizer that has a more analog type of interface. There's no menus, it's sort of knob per function, that kind of that design, and again, you can really get into all of these controls. There's
again, like I'm not actually as hardcore as I just said, but like for me, like everyone has their own like the way they want to touch the synthesizer. But for me, like I've long ago determined that I need 1 inches center to center between the knobs. If I use smaller knobs, I could probably get them a little tighter, but I found these knobs a long time ago, and it was like an existential crisis of 9 months of trying out different knobs, and I just don't want to do that again. So I think these knobs feel great. We've
They
got
do.
the pots custom spec so that they have a little higher torque than most
Ah,
pots do. Um,
yeah.
Maybe someday down the line I could. I don't. I for me, like this is the design rules I've come across too. They're kind of frustrating because it sort of limits me in some ways. Like I can only really fit 3 knobs vertical, and things get really big horizontally really quickly, and that can limit the type of modules I can really make because there's some things where you really do want like say 5 vertical knobs, like if you were doing a traditional mixer or EQ or something, and I just can't do that with my UI rules.
Mhm.
And I've so far uh, that's just for me. I just hit that and then I go like, okay, well, let me do something else because this is too frustrating.
I know,
Um,
but I mean, those are the things, though. Those kind of decisions are the things that do steer you and help you make decisions, stop you procrastinating, and actually make forward motion, I suppose. But again, from like now, just experiencing them, and you say about that higher torque on there, there's a real positive action, the way that they feel, that is extremely satisfying. So I think it's a good decision. I mean, because you could see the 3 body and go, well, it's what is it, 30 HP,
28.
28 HP. Okay, but it's three oscillators, and it's packing a lot into that as well. So it's you know
The
it's a good trade off.
the modules are very functionally dense, and some of the newer ones definitely hit right this line of like, right on the line of being like I can't like the bitfold is 6 HP, and
Yeah,
for my using my UI rules, I can't get any. I don't think I could ever make a 4 HP module, right? And making a 6 HP module is still kind of rough because I'm there. Horizontal circuit boards behind there, and they get real crowded. Yeah, it's we all have our like. I personally wish that the group consensus had been for you, right? Like, just give me a little more UI room to work with. But this is where we've ended up with, and like what I'm trying to do is make live improvisational music. Um, I don't like it has to be touchable and playable. I don't. For me in my sense, like I don't understand like it. If it's not playable, like it doesn't. Like okay, let's go do Max MSP or something. Like I don't like it has to be a hands-on playable instrument.
yeah, no, it makes total sense. I mean, so let's just sort of hark back a little bit then. So when you were talking about things like Skinny Puppy or 9 Inch Nails, or actually even some of like the death metal kind of stuff, those when you're making the decisions, like the engineering decisions, you're having to balance those engineering decisions with the musical decisions, and then I'm quite interested in that line in a way, and sort of I'm guessing that you're always kind of crisscrossing this line, sort of sometimes pulling it more musical, sometimes more into the sort of technical and engineering side of things. But I'm just kind of curious about that, and how you kind of rationalize the decisions maybe from the musical angle of things.
So I think for me, the word experimental is super important. Like everything, like if I fully understand what's going to happen with everything, then it's not very interesting. The each of our objects, modules, whatever, like it's an experiment with some sort of idea, and like, you know, I prototype to the point where I'm sure that it's an interesting idea and can be used musically in some way, but usually like then I put it in the rack and you really start to understand it. And uh, yeah, it doesn't, um, like I have to make the thing and put it in the rack and try and use it for months to really understand whether it's musical or not. And usually, most of these things, like getting to Rev 1 is fairly quick because that's just a technical, like, can I make it work? And then Rev 2 is usually drastically different than Rev 1 because usually once I'm playing with it, I discover that there's either I wanted something totally different or there's something else I wanted out of it. And then Rev 2, after Rev 2, most of the revisions are usually like pretty small and incremental, but like Rev 1 to Rev 2 is usually a pretty big, or maybe it's 2 to 3. Maybe it takes me a Rev to really get it to work. But there's this big jump once I put it in the system and start discovering how I actually want to play with it.
Okay, yeah, cool. So, so I suppose it's that thing about like how your music taste, and because you've got, you know, quite strong, more, you know, experimental music tastes or whatever, is kind of dictating the design decisions, you know, what the ranges will cover. Do you hear music that's made on your modules by other people and then are surprised by what you're hearing? Things maybe that, you know, that you didn't think about, people using it in ways that, I mean, because, you know, as we mentioned earlier, there's plenty of CV and plenty of output. So the possibilities are pretty vast. Must be quite gratifying to hear things when people are using them in ways that you think, wow.
So there's a couple local friends of mine here in Portland. There's someone named Vern who's currently going as Trigger Object, who runs like a large Schlappy system. There's another experimental artist here, Daniel Menchie, who uses 200 grits, which is incredible. But aside from these specific people, I fairly rarely, like, I don't know if aside from the 100 grit, maybe, I'm not sure I'd be able to pick out in a mix if someone is using my modules. And it's funny, like, you do something like this and you ship a decent amount of modules and like you see your name on the internet, but I don't get much feedback actually. Like the only useful feedback I get from people is generally in person, maybe at a trade show, or if we like, if I invite them over and we drink a beer and like watch how they're using something. But I don't, like, verbal feedback is usually not that useful. What's useful is usually watching how someone is using something. And like, people are very rarely, every now and then someone sends me a link like, oh, I used your module on this album I did, but I don't get that too often actually. So I just have no idea what's going on out there, and I'm just trying to make the things that I that I enjoy and I can use.
Nice. I mean, you know, I suppose that's the thing. Like as a musician, I've tended to always gravitate towards experimental and when I think about it, I've put hours and hours into making music that is really quite obscure and difficult to like. But I like it, and I think that's the important thing, isn't it? You know, everything else is bonus. If you know, don't try and please people. I think, you know, that's not the way. Just please yourself, I think. So I'm just going to ask the chat room if there's any questions that you'd like to ask Eric whilst we've got you here. So please put a double Q on front of the questions, just so I can just definitely see there's a question there. Because I guess there's going to be a bunch of questions. We'll also do some more. I've been knocked off my perch a little bit with this stereo business, but especially as I've got it plugged in to something which I haven't actually shown yet. This is the night verb from Eric Synth. Which have you heard that, Eric? The night verb.
No, I love Gertz. I run into Erica at trade shows, but during the trade show, they're busy, I'm busy. I don't get to play with anyone's stuff. I have no idea. That's awesome, though.
Yeah, it's really, what's interesting about it, I think, is, most digital reverbs will be a collection of different algorithms, and this is just one algorithm, but with loads of controls on it. So a very flexible algorithm, but it's just a different approach, really. So, so you're not switching between your plates and your halls and your rooms or whatever. It's just a single algorithm, and it's really lovely. Let's just have a little look. We got a question coming through from Vlad.
Hi, Vlad. Verilog.
Okay, I don't know what on earth that means.
So, programming FPGAs, there's two of these old school hardware description languages, Verilog and VHDL. The reason I use Verilog is because I'm using the open source toolchain, and when it started, it only supported Verilog. From what I hear, VHDL might be better because it's type safe and there's less foot guns, so to speak, but I use Verilog.
Okay, so Harry Turner Project is asking for a close-up of the modules a tad late to the show. Yes, of course. So actually, let's have a little look again, and we'll actually get some more sounds up. So the module that we wanted to sort of have a little closer look at, I think, is let's get this camera in a little bit more. Whoop. And that's this 6 HP one here, which is called the Bitfold. And I mean, it's not the easiest product to describe in a way, because I guess maybe the easiest way to explain it in some ways is you can plug anything into it, and then the outputs that you'll get from that. Let's just say we've just put... Oh, sorry. After you.
No, guys, it's super easy to describe. It's a 4-bit asynchronous analog to digital converter.
Yeah. Okay. I mean,
and the what I'm calling the SAW wave folder output is actually like a magnified error between the input and the output.
Okay, so hopefully that answers. Vlad's got another obscure question for us.
I actually don't have any particular opinions about formatting of code. I guess I do use tabs.
Okay, I think I get that. Okay, let's... Yeah, so again, any questions, double Q at the front just makes it easier for me to kind of see, because I miss a lot of the chat. Thank you.
I think someone's asking about the dual vector foil stoneware.
Let's see that.
I
don't know what that means.
Oh God, Vim. Oh no. Vector foil. So the vector foil is another object from the 3-body universe. If you've read the books, I'm currently lost in.
Oh, sorry. Let's just back up a minute. I think I've missed an important element here. The three body is named after is a book.
Oh yeah.
I've missed this. I'm sorry. Please explain.
Yeah, the three body problem. It's more recently it's gotten a Netflix series and so
Oh
on.
yes, of course.
I
That
have not watched the Netflix
no, I've
series.
not seen it. Okay, so this is connected then, right?
That actually the dual vector foil. My friend Brandon of Mordax pulled
Oh,
that. That's sort of a deeper reference in the book. To it goes deep. Strong recommend for those books. It seems not everyone can get through them, but like the density of ideas in them, I think, are incredible and um, super worth getting into. The three body, like the name is, it's referencing the books because I like them, and also three oscillating bodies. It makes sense, but I don't think you can take the reference too far. It doesn't, like, my three body module does not solve the three body physics problem, which is what the name of the book is
okay.
referring to. But
So, did you actually name the module before the Netflix came out?
yeah, I mean, I started designing the module in 2018, I think.
Oh wow. Okay.
I think I released it 2022, 2021. It took me 3 or 4 years because I didn't. I had to teach myself Verilog and a lot of digital design stuff while I was designing that module.
And now that's quite an interesting thing there. Then, so where you have an idea for something, but you don't have necessarily all of the information or the knowledge to do that. So you have to kind of learn in order to be able to obtain the results. That's quite that's a definite commitment then to the idea.
Well, and another thing there was like I did know I wanted to learn to use FPGAs. That's something I've encountered them in the previous engineering career. And I thought that a digital oscillator would be like a simple datasheet design, and which it is actually, but like once you start interfacing it with Eurorack and making creative decisions, it becomes pretty complicated. Um,
But I mean, is this is something though that along the journey then of having to force yourself to learn this stuff, you then discover a whole bunch of other things that then may take you off in new directions. Which I think we were talking earlier at the start of the show, and with the, I suppose that's the case with the 4-bit modules. I suppose was
it's I
discoveries along the way.
digital fundamentals are really interesting to me because they can, in some way, they become abstracted, but you can tie them to like computing fundamentals, but you can also relate them to other like DSP or EE theory. Like the Nibbler is a 4-bit accumulator, which is the digital construct version of an integrator in the analog world. It's This is the stuff that I think is really interesting. If you can tie it back to like fundamental theory and then allow like a hands-on way to play with it, then I get really excited. I'm not that stoked about like if you um, let's take like reverb or something. I'm not that interested in reverb as a concept, but I am interested in delay lines and comb filters and all pass filters and combining them in feedback loops, which could take you to a reverb, right? Like I'm less interested in the high level constructs and more in like trying to get to something that feels atomic or feels fundamental.
Okay, that's very cool. And Yeah. So I mean, let's get back to the let's get back to. Oh, hang on, that's gone. Hang on, I'll just. It's just. This is just needs adjusting. Okay. Talk amongst yourselves.
Lasagna sounds delicious. I don't know how that relates to the 3-body problem. Field programmable analog arrays. I think that's still I think people are still working on that. I think it's just a slow, like, analog computing seems to be something that has this slow burning interest out there in the university world. I think just university world moves kind of slow when it doesn't have a lot of backing from obvious commercial applications.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Mr. Pantelic is correct.
Wagyu is asking. Aha, okay.
Yeah, there isn't really a so the FPAAs, the analog version of the field programmable gate arrays, I don't think there's any way to actually get a hold of one. Like I could be wrong at this, but last time I looked, like, there are companies, like, I think companies that are actually just research groups at universities working on them. But yeah, still searching for the problem that will get them the funding to make a even enough of these objects to. Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
You can't buy them, I don't think.
So I'm just going to. Sorry, Eric. You're going to bounce. You're going to come back in on yourself a little bit now, just so we can have a little bit of stereo. I think we'll be kind of looking to sort of wrap up the talk soon. So I think we should end with some music-y examples. If you could just bear with a little bit of slapback, just so we can have some stereo goodness. I'll just bring in some of that reverb as well.
So one thing you can do that's interesting, since we've got that left oscillator patched to the CV of the bitfold,
Yep.
try tossing that into audio range and playing it around.
Okay.
Try tuning the oscillators close to each other.
Ooh, nice.
And if you sent the volts per octave into the transpose input instead of the center one, yeah. Now they will track together.
There's some more some more notes going on. Let's get it going faster. Getting crazy land now. Let's slow that over a bit. Oh yeah. It's I play with these phase controls. Oh, there's a so I suppose if I put then the types back into ratios, that's a quick way of getting it back into some sort of I mean, yes.
Something that happens to me a lot when I'm playing with the Bitfold is I end up pushing the oscillator below audio rates because it will generate audio rate harmonics from really low frequencies.
Okay, let's get right down. So the way, so you can see the activity lights on the output of the Bitfold flickering at different rates. So you can sort of take clocks out of here, I suppose, couldn't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you run LFOs into the inputs, you can get gate outs. And they will be roughly kind of octave relationships from each other. Because binary each bit will be twice as fast as the one before it.
Making sense. Oh, you see, this is fun. Oh my goodness. I got envelopes on them, Ray. Okay. So, I mean, this is all... Ooh. Put those into free. Oh my goodness. Some stereo action here. Let's see then, back to some form of normality. If you can call it that.
So with the two-body, those two sets of phase modulation indexes on the center one
Oh yeah,
are normalized coming from the output oscillators. and then the FM indexes from the outside oscillators are normalized coming from the center oscillator. So if you have both coming up, then they're feeding back into each other, and you'll get weird. If you want to get more musical, just use one or the other.
Well, I think yeah, it's awesome. Okay, I think we can see yeah. Okay, I'm gonna just turn this off a moment, and I'm gonna let's just make our audio let's just sort that out again. Okay, hopefully yeah. Phew, just then I felt it. It's amazing. But there's a lot of deep diving onto it. I'm definitely going to return to them once I've got a little bit more experience with them. As I say, they've only just arrived.
So once you start experimenting with it, one thing that's interesting about the 3-body is in ratio mode, it's normalized so that those outer oscillators track the inner oscillator, but they will track anything you put into the sync input as well. Same with the center one.
Yes.
So if they're in free mode, the sync input will act as a hard sync. But if they're in ratio mode, you can track external oscillators and do ratios to whatever. It also works at LFO rates. There's also some weird header options I don't recommend for everybody, but there is like a PLL tracking mode and some other strange stuff back there.
Wow. There's yeah. What was I noticing? There's like jumpers. The angle grinder, I just noticed that you can change the FM to be both be linear or exponential.
So you've got an early one actually. For some reason, I dropped that header from later ones, and I regret it.
Whoops. Well, I think we'll probably kind of draw things to a close now, Eric, because we don't want to go on too long. But firstly, I want to say a huge thanks for sending these modules over and for coming on the show. This is a real thrill, and I will definitely get you back on. Maybe once I've had a little bit more time to get some more sort of patching tips and ideas. It's I like I was mentioning earlier with subtractive synthesis, you can obviously, it's an amazing form of synthesis, of course, but this feels just like certainly for me anyway, like a new frontier somewhere, something to really kind of get lost in and to kind of go on these kind of, and that's the big thing, isn't it, really, I think, is to keep finding inspiration and and I think this does kind of encourage you to go into different areas perhaps than the more traditional approach to synthesis. So huge kudos for creating such fun, playable and exciting instruments.
Well, thank you. So with the 3-body, I almost never use filters because you can bring up the modulation and get more harmonics and bring it down and get less.
Yeah, I was feeling that just then. Yeah, it's but also, sorry, carry on.
But running it through a filter or like the the bitfold through a filter, once you have all these harmonics, sometimes running it through a classic filter can give it more of that like organic feel too, which is nice.
Yeah, nice. But I mean, well, okay, I know just it was kind of wrapping up, but there was something I forgot to mention earlier though with the FPGA, the FGPA, sorry,
FPGA.
I always get it wrong. It's working at a really high rate, isn't it? By audio rate standards. So the aliasing is just.
So the internal sample rate on the 3-body is 12 megahertz, which is much higher than the industry standard 44.1 or 96 kilohertz or whatever. And this is a pretty deep subject, but like basically like DSP has done a lot of stuff. DSP theory in the last 20 years has spent a lot of time trying to find ways to work with lower sample rates, but like you can make, in this case, like it's the oscillator core is very simple. There's no anti-aliasing built into the oscillator core, but running it at 12 megahertz is enough that you probably won't ever hear any aliasing unless you're doing like one of the reasons I wanted it so high, because it doesn't really matter that the sample rate is that high if you're just producing like a sine or a triangle or something. Like if you're just generating waveforms, you really don't need that extra sample rate. But once you start doing modulation and cross modulation, you start generating nonlinearities, and you basically want as high a sample rate as possible so that it doesn't, because once you get some aliasing, then the aliasing will alias and so on, and it gets out of control really quickly. And anything with a jagged waveform will probably do that. I think that like for processing this sort of stuff, like people talk about 96 or 192 kilohertz as being a high sample rate, but it really isn't. As far as being able to process a nonlinearity, like 2 and 4 times oversampling helps, but it's really insufficient. You really want 10 or 20 times oversampling, or 256 times oversampling if you can get it.
Wow. Yeah. So, okay. This, I mean, I can see how we can springboard off into more. So I'd like to say then, again, gigantic thank you for coming on the show, and obviously for supplying the modules as well, which is, as I say, that's going to be more of a long-term thing. But thank you everybody as well for watching live, and please consider subscribing to the show if you haven't already. We're going to be doing more interviews and things, and definitely, Eric, if you would, I would love it for you to come back on the show in maybe a few months' time, and we can try and see if we can, and see where I've got to, because it's I'm just dying to sort of dive in deeper, really. But shall we have one more play out, I think, before? Yeah, I think we should just sort of play out, I think, with some more chaos. Shall we just create another patch then, or another something, just as a
So do you have a way in that to generate a couple of like LFOs or envelopes and attenuate them?
Yeah.
One patch that I find super fun and entertaining is putting both of the outside oscillators into ratio mode, and then running envelopes or LFOs into the volts per octave ratio input. So you CV the ratios, and just listen to the outside oscillators as a stereo pair with all the modulation down, and just get weird musical ratios.
Okay. So just one moment to set that up. Okay, there's our so once this and this. So we're just going to patch the outputs. So if I take our stereo outputs and take them to the
the triangle of the outside oscillators, left and right.
Yep. Okay, and then turn off all modulation. Yep. They're both in ratio mode and both in the high range.
Yeah, ratio high.
Yep. And then, okay, so I got an LFO. Let's see, let's just set that to an LFO.
And if you have two of them, you want to patch them through the VCA or something, because you want to be able to attenuate them, and then run them into the VOT inputs of the right and left side.
Okay. Right, so so this LFO, I can adjust it's got a built-in attenuator.
Oh, perfect.
Yep. So that I'll just unplug the transpose. That's going to go into there, and then LFO 2 will go in there, and then so I'll just set that up. LFO. Okay, yeah, that's set to an LFO as well. Okay. Sorry, Eric, I'm going to have to make you go back on yourself so we can get our stereo
perfect
audio.
And you want to start with the coarse and fine of both of those left and right oscillators all the way down.
Ah, right. The coarse and fine all the way down. Yep. Okay, let's bring those up.
Now slow down those LFOs.
Okay.
And it sounds like we've got one side,
yeah,
but not the other.
Yeah, I'm getting on to that one now. Okay. LFO 2. Why is that doing there? LFO 2. Okay.
and try changing the division ratios a little bit. Like keep them low, but different.
Division. Nice. That's nice. I love it.
And then try turning up the cross modulations. So the left and right phase modulation just a little bit.
Oh, it's nice. Lovely. So I can do with these LFOs. Joy. And I guess if you just flick those from the ratios back into free, it'll
try it.
Yeah.
Or try keeping one in ratio.
And I'm just looking at just all of these available. Okay, fantastic. Well, Eric, I'm gonna. This is definitely the end of the stream now. So, excuse me. Thank you again once more. Wonderful. Really enjoyed this, and hope everybody enjoyed it out there. Please like the stream, and we'll have you back on in the near future, Eric, if that's okay with you.
Great. I'd love it.
It's amazing. Thank you once more. And thanks, everybody. And take care. And we'll see you soon. Okay. Cheerio. Thanks.
Thank you so much.